Greetings and welcome to the introduction to astronomy. One of the things that I like to do in each of my introductory astronomy classes is to begin the class with the astronomy picture of the day from the NASA website, that is apod.nasa.gov/apod. And today's picture for January the 11th of 2021. Well, it is titled Moon Phases in 2021. So what do we see here? Well, this is a video, and as we play the video, which will run nearly 5 minutes, some of the things that we will see are the moon as it goes through its entire set of phases over the course of the year. So it started on January 1st, and as we continue to watch, it'll move through the month of January. And we can watch how the moon's illumination will change over the year. Now the moon is always half illuminated. So half of the moon is always lit up by the sun and the other half is always dark. However, we only see half of the moon. So it depends on what portion of the illuminated part that we are seeing that tells us what the phase will be. So as it comes around through towards the end of February at a full phase, we will then see it start to disappear on the other side, and that will become darker. Now, some of the things noted in this as we look through the phases is that you will see a little sliding bar off to the right with the little object going back and forth between 28 and 32. That is showing the distance between the Earth, which is all the way on the left hand side, and the moon on the right. At its closest, the moon gets around 28 Earth diameters away from Earth, and at its furthest the moon is about 32 Earth diameters away. And if you watch the moon, which on mid-April will be very far away from the Earth, it gets very small. And then as we go through towards the end of April, by the end of April, it will look much larger. So sometimes we call this, when we get a full moon near the time of perigee, which would be when the moon is at its closest, we would call that a supermoon, when the moon looks a lot larger. However, you really would not notice this if you are just looking at the moon. If you just go out and look at the moon, you're not generally going to notice that it's a lot larger or a lot smaller. Now, some of the other things that you can notice are that the moon is also slowly changing its position and is kind of twisting and turning back and forth. And this is what we call the libration of the moon, which is that twisting and turning that allows us to see a little bit more of the moon than we would normally see. So we get to see the position of it changing just slightly. There will still always be one side, though, that is completely invisible to us, and that we cannot see without sending spacecraft around the other side of the moon. Because the moon is locked in a resonance with the Earth, we always see the same side. And as you watch the moon go through its phases, you will see that it always shows the same features. And in fact, noted are the Apollo missions from Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And you notice that they're all on the Earth facing side of the moon. Now that was done on purpose because it allowed them to then be able to communicate with the Earth, because they'd always be pointing towards the Earth. If the moon did not always keep one face towards the Earth, then it would have been impossible to continuously communicate. If they were pointing away from the Earth, then they would be unable to send a signal directly to the Earth because the moon would have been in the way. So we can see all of those Apollo landing sites there. Now, as we go through the phases, you'll see a number of other locations labeled, and those are various different craters and features on the moon. And you can see the ones that are noted are as they come across what we call the terminator, the dividing line between day and night on the moon. And that lists all of these generally different scientists who had them named after, had craters named after them on the surface of the moon. So that's what a lot of those are actually labeled for, are various different scientists, and you might recognize some names. In fact, very close, just above the Apollo 12 and Apollo 14 landing sites, you see the big crater Copernicus, named after the great astronomer Copernicus, who was one of the first modern astronomer to suggest that the Earth orbited the sun and not the other way around. So as we approach the end of the year, getting into that section, we again see the moon continuing to go through its phase. And you can skim through this to look and see what will the phase of the moon be, for example, on your birthday. And down in the bottom, we can see a number of things, including the date, the phase percentage, how much of the illuminated portion we're seeing, how big the moon is, the diameter, and that's the diameter, the apparent diameter, which does change with distance, and some various other numbers there as well. So that was our picture of the day for January the 11th of 2021. It was titled Moon Phases in 2021. We'll be back again tomorrow for the next picture, previewed to be Folklore Sky. So we'll see what that is about tomorrow. And until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.